Welcome to Top M&A Entrepreneurs. Today, my guest is Paul Bellows. Paul is from Tucson. This is my first local podcast guest. Ew. Anyway, Paul is an entrepreneur. He's also an author. He's got a book called Your Business Coach in a Book. So it's called Slap. It's a nice book. It's really detailed. So he also is a business broker here in Tucson for Benchmark Business Group. That's what we're going to talk about. But Paul is an entrepreneur, and he's got quite a story on how to grow a business and then kind of get screwed over with seller financing. And the reason I bring this up, I see a lot of people on Twitter, LinkedIn talking about, hey, don't buy a business unless it has seller financing. Paul has a cautionary story that we're going to jump into about that. Well, awesome. Welcome to the show, Paul.
Thanks for having me, John. I appreciate being here and everything you do to help business. You know, at the end of the day, I'm a business owner advocate, right? I love business owners. I love entrepreneurship, and I do everything I can to help business owners be successful. That's my whole mission in life. So I appreciate everything you're doing to help them as well.
Well, thank you. So let's start talking about where you started as an entrepreneur. You have a business, and then you sold it. A little bit of a seller financing, how that story went, because I just want to say, hey, look, just because you see a lot of these celebrity gurus out there say get seller financing, that's not always the case.
Yeah, in my case, my first business was a restaurant when I was 20 in Tucson, and that was just a huge amount of hours. And not very, I financed it myself and eventually left that business. So eventually I ended up in high tech over about 10 years later, and specifically in a space called semiconductor test equipment. So we manufactured and upgraded equipment that tested computer chips and printed circuit boards. So it was a high tech type of space, and we were pretty global for a small business. And my partner and I grew that from our basement, and then ended up having offices throughout the world and about 100 employees. And so it was very exciting, a tremendous amount of work. And so at some point I thought there's some other things I'd like to do, and I really decided. I went through a couple acquisitions. I grew the business, and I decided, I think there's an opportunity here for somebody else to kind of take this and run with it to the next level. We were going to have to retool, and that was going to require like a $10 million investment, right? So I was, I looked around, and I could have financed that through a combination of banks and so forth. And I was like, well, do I want to spend the rest in the next 10 years dealing with that? And so we all kind of make reasons for exiting, right? And I was still at that time, I was in my late 30s and a little burned out from the industry and the travel. And I had a partner, meaning I had offices throughout Asia, and I had a specific partner who had really helped us expand in Asia. So long story short, I'd worked with this guy for 10 years. And when you work for somebody for 10 years traveling, you get to know that person. We'd completed thousands of deals, right? Selling test equipment. These deals, went from $5K to over $1 million. So a wide range of all types of test equipment and services. And so I knew this guy pretty well, and I made him a sweetheart deal. I was like, here's my business. Let's find a way for you to grow your business. Here's all the assets. And, it was, a little money up front. And a 5-year note, monthly payments, and
that was a long time. Yeah,
that was a long time. And I'm not saying I'm not advocating that was the best plan and idea. And I didn't have probably my best deal team. I was being super clever, which is different than being super strategic. And I was being smart and trying to help him and trying to help myself and family, and trying to maybe not to pay paying some taxes on the sell. So we created some unique, just interesting ways of handling the transaction. And about 1.5 years into him paying, I took a year off. That part was great, right?
Yeah. You were getting paid during that year off, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got in shape and played some golf, and and looked at future opportunities and what did I want to do next. And I spent 15 years in that industry. and it came down to 1 month my check didn't come in, right, and my wire didn't make it, and this was from a buyer in Malaysia. So I started investigating, having conversations, and he had been acquired by a bigger company that basically neither one would honor our agreement,
Shoot.
and so I'm looking to be basically hung out to dry. And what that means is, you hire a lawyer, you start getting involved in international lawsuits, and you quickly find out how expensive they are,
Yeah.
and what's required, and then dealing with countries that you're going to have to go to international courts. And he had been purchased by a company that was in excess of $1 billion in revenue, and I'm a little guy compared to that type of.
They could hang you out to dry for a long period of time.
And so we fought it for a little bit and burned through some cash. And at the end of the day, I had to basically walk away. And there's $1.5 million out there I never got.
Yeah.
And that changes your life. I was living large, probably more than I should have, and a lot of money went to some battles I was fighting. And I started, I looked, what can I do next? And that's, I really thought the things I excelled in and I enjoyed were building teams and putting strategies together, right? And connecting those two. And so that's what I'd done for myself. I'd done it for other organizations. And that's, a high level of consulting, but it doesn't pay a lot of money right off the bat.
Yeah. Let me ask you about that, just to reconstructing that, kind of like a prosecutor trying to find out what happened there.
Yeah.
Now, did you have conversations with your partner and say, hey,
Sure.
what the hell's going on? And,
Absolutely.
you heat up the phone with him going, you son of a bitch, what happened? Yeah.
Yeah. It quickly came that they were using this as an excuse not to pay me. He really took the role that he had very little decisions in it, decision making. Looking back, my contract wasn't as thorough as it could have been. Right, we had a lot of inventory and a lot of equipment, and so we didn't take care of some of the things we should have in terms of like a UCC. I really there was a lot of trust in it, and the agreement could have been a lot stronger. I could have prepared for him having an acquisition like he did, and we were sold on building organically or through smaller acquisitions. So this took me by surprise, and maybe I was a little unprepared and a little ignorant, and I didn't have a great deal team with me. Looking back, I didn't have the appropriate legal team and the agreement. But at the end of the day, he dropped the ball. He wasn't willing to fight or advocate for me, and at that point, you battle what you can. But it was there's the financial part, and then there's the heartbreak part.
Yeah, there's the
betrayal.
It's a betrayal part. Yeah.
That's how it felt, and I had to work on that, but at the same time, it made me a lot better as a consultant, as a business broker. I never want to put any of my clients, and my clients are usually people who are selling their business, right? Retiring people, people that are, been working on their business for a long time. And so I want to put them in a position where they're not having to go out and try to be the collector, right? Or fight a legal battle, where they're being compensated well for, working hard, building that organization. A lot of businesses, this is their main retirement, right?
Yeah.
For me, I was still a young entrepreneur, was just reinvesting in other opportunities.
You got at least 20 more years to try to build something back. So let me ask you about that again. It's like, was it 50-50 or what was the split? Like, did they give you cash up front, or was it 100% seller financed? I mean,
no, it was more like 20% up front with 80% carry. Yeah. And there was a lot of growth potential and opportunities. Yeah. So, the amount could have we had some criteria built in there where the amount could have even increased based on performance. And, I positioned us really well. And with relationships and our clients were, Fortune 100 tech companies, right?
Yeah.
So we those take a lot of agreements, and you have to prove yourself, and the technology has to be there. But in terms of the deal side of things, I just wanted to, I didn't want to burden him with the debt, right, and with having so much overhead, and
You were thinking about the best interest in the company and everybody in whole to, overburden the company,
I put
which turned
myself
out,
last in this arrangement,
yeah,
and it bit me. And so now I take a much more balanced approach, and trying to find a win-win for all the buyer, the seller, the employees, the customers. You got to look at all those factors. But in this case, I didn't put myself high as enough of a priority, and
yeah,
you forget, when you're still kind of that young. In my case, and I had grown this business pretty rapidly and found some success. I thought I could do it again, and it's
we all do.
challenging to
We
do it
all do.
again and make that much money again
Yeah,
when you found a niche that was really, the timing of it was really good, and I found very few businesses that could match what I was doing in terms of profit, in terms of gross margins, and in terms of the global appeal, in terms of the tech, all that stuff. There's very few opportunities I've seen since then. So part of this was I could play because I was a little younger, and I was a little riskier in my approach.
yeah,
And so you learn from those lessons. And nowadays, depending where somebody's at in their stage of their career, they may not be as much of a risk taker as I was, and I took too big of a risk, and I put myself last, and I got burnt.
yeah. So where was this adjudicated? And do you think that would there have been anything you could have done to put into place a lot more legalese that would have protected you?
For sure, there could have been. We should have done some agreements that would have given me the opportunity to recapture my investments.
Yeah,
This we were looking from at making sure this was an agreement, and making sure that it was based on U.S. law,
yeah,
right? And there definitely could have been a UCC or some other instruments similar to that to really make sure I would have had access to
yeah. Where was it adjudicated?
in the U.S. Yeah.
In the U.S. Oh, yeah. Well, that kind of begs a question. Like, you put yourself last, and just last year or 2 years ago, if you got an SBA loan, seller financing was on a 10-year standby. It's now on a 2-year standby. That's putting yourself last, right?
It definitely can be, and you gotta know what you're getting yourself into, right?
Yeah,
And I think anybody has to, if they don't understand the intricacies of this type of deal. This is where you spend the money, you get the good attorneys, you educate yourself, you talk to people like you and me. You learn from the lessons, the painful lessons we've had to go through, but you don't skimp on the deal. And I skimped on the deal team. I sidetracked probably some of the things that I should have done just to keep my costs down and just to make it easier transition. And I really didn't shop myself. I made a sweetheart deal to this guy.
yeah. Our most painful lessons are the ones that stay with us the longest. That also create these working principles in the future. What did you say? I know you said you would have had a stronger deal team, a stronger legal team in place. Don't skimp on that stuff. Like, better, more clauses in a contract would
Sure.
have been better because it would have been shown up on a UCC filings, especially if another U.S. company purchased it. Yeah,
Right. And he
yeah,
should have set up a U.S. company. I mean, there's things that
yeah,
we should have done. There's the legal perspective, but it's also my own personal readiness. I was really burned out, so
yeah,
I didn't go to market. I didn't find competitors. I didn't shop myself appropriately. You don't want to operate from a position where this is your only opportunity. You need to look at options. You need to look at other opportunities, and you don't want to operate from, I wasn't desperate, but I was burnt out. So, being personally ready, mentally and emotionally, having your family behind you, really getting everybody on the same page, taking care of your mental, physical health. I look back and I wasn't maybe healthy in some of the areas I am now, or I could have been a lot healthier. And so, all those things come together, your perspective of where you're at, your financial situation, your relationships at home, your relationship with yourself, and putting yourself in a position where you can look at multiple offers. You can really I think I undervalued myself and undervalued my organization. I didn't get it what I would consider a strong enough valuation. So part of this is the deal team in terms of the legal work. Part of it was my own mental and emotional health, and part of it was is trying to force the deal to happen before it's time.
Yeah, that brings a question, and I have actually been in this situation. I had an e-commerce company, and I took it. I was just burned out of selling hearing aids, having to talk louder than I normally have to do because people want it. And that's not a joke. Like what? But you have to talk louder to people with hearing loss to sell hearing aids. And I took it when I first took it to market. I was burnt out, and people were telling me, no, it's not going to sell for what you think it's going to sell. You're working too many hours in the business. You're not delegating all of this stuff. The metrics aren't right. And I took that to heart and took it back and retooled it to resell at Empire Flippers. And then, so when I did, after a year, I sold it, put it on Empire Flippers and sold it in 72 hours. So there was a difference. When you do all those things, people are telling you what to do. It does change the outcome of what you're trying to do.
I would add that I probably was so independent at the time. I probably wasn't that ready to be coachable.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, I should have brought some. I had brought a consultant on when I made the acquisition. So I had a smaller company. I made an acquisition of a company bigger than us. So I had brought a consultant in on that acquisition, and it really helped with organizational structuring and process improvement, and structuring our chain of command, and our financial chart of accounts. All that was really helpful. But when I went to sell it, there was things that now that I've been on the other side as a consultant and trusted advisor for almost 20 years, there was a lot of things that could have been done to strengthen that company. And I should have been patient. I should have probably made those investments. And I personally should have been a lot more coachable to learn, to really dial down some of my drive and independence. I had bought this company with the goal to sell it in 5 years, John. So I had a smaller company. I bought a company. I'm going to sell this in 5 years, right? I got other things I want to do. And I sold it in 5 years and 3 months. So I let the time frame dictate when I was ready to sell, and not other things like my readiness, the business's readiness, the market condition, the buyer. I let the time frame of my goal be the driver. And that's not always that puts you in an ideal position.
Should you have been more specific about your goals? I need to sell in 5 years. I'm going to sell it for this amount, and I'm going to put this much in my bank account, and etc.
Or I'm going to sell within 5 to 7 years with these types of factors, right? I want to get this much out. I want to have this team, but be a little flexible with the time frame sometimes, and don't force it. If I would have given myself a little more time, been a little less, had a sense of urgency, and focused on performance and quality and building it the right way, I think I would have made a much better decision.
Yeah. Well, Paul, I want to thank you for sharing this. These hard points in our life kind of help us with our character, and then move us to the next step. If you're strong and you achieve it, goes like, hey, it's a loss. I'm going to take the loss and move on, and learn from it. So you went into coaching, business coaching for something. Now, tell me about this coaching. Is that and you're still doing it because I see it's still present on your LinkedIn profile. Is that like an EOS type of deal? What kind of coaching is that?
Well, when I started coaching, and two hats. Coaching is like the one-on-one buildings leadership
Yeah.
skills, and consulting is more of a project base. So, for a long time, I was coaching leaders to be better leaders of entrepreneur companies, right? And then helping them develop strategies and execute those strategies, and for raising their level of ability to lead a team and to better have a world-class strategy. The last few years is really I'm only doing coaching for people that really want to exit, that really want to exit in the next year or two. And I have some other coaches on my team, and we kind of specialize in different areas. So I've really flipped it around from being a full-time coach, coaching, for almost 18 years of 30 to 40 hours a week, of one-on-ones and team environments, to right now where it's mostly helping business owners put their business on the market, position themselves and the business, making sure it's the right time at the right price, and sell it to the right buyer.
And the business has the right metrics to get the best offer for the seller.
Yeah. And sometimes you have to tweak those things to make the business ready to go, right?
Yeah.
To optimize the performance, to optimize the sell. I really think, I'm in the optimization business now. It's coaching, but it's not startups. It's not midterm. It's coaching people to optimize their business for an exit that's going to happen in the next 6 months to 2 years.
Yeah.
And so, that's just the life cycle as you become a trusted advisor. Where's your niche, and where does your strengths match? And I just want to help as many business owners realize a
and
great.
Is that mostly in Tucson? I mean, or is it all over the place?
It's probably the 80-20 rule for me. 80% of my business I'm working with or listings are in Tucson. And there's a handful in other states, or maybe even internationally.
Yeah, because it doesn't really matter, right?
Yeah,
I think you're an M&A advisor.
Yeah.
On this you're coaching on your LinkedIn, M&A advisor, because that's exactly what they do. Yeah.
Yeah, and my lessons I learned, painful lessons, come to play.
Yeah.
Structured deals, so that doesn't happen. And so I have no. It's a little. At first, it was very embarrassing and very difficult to talk about, and over time I saw it as a way to help other people and learn from it, and make sure other people don't repeat those mistakes, and for the most part I think I'm able to help people make much better decisions than I made.
Yeah. Having a point of view, but your mess is the message too, to help other people avoid the dragons. Yeah.
And that brings a lot of fulfillment, right? And sometimes I'm the right guy to help coach them along, and sometimes it's another person in my team or somebody else. But any business I put on the market or I list isn't perfect, right? But we try to optimize it. We try to make sure the team's good and the financials make sense and the business model is solid, and they position themselves, but they're not perfect. And so we just try to talk about the risk of putting it on the business now versus the risk of putting it on the business 1 or 2 or 5 years from now. And are they personally ready? And what's that risk look like? And sometimes it's risky to put it on now, and sometimes it's risky to put it on later. It's a very individual conversation when you talk about risk mitigation in terms of the timing of when your business goes on.
Yeah. And let me ask you how you just jumped into, so like, okay, I've got a lot of skills here and I want to help people get the maximum value for their business, and I'm going to go work for Benchmark Group. How did you make that leap?
Well, over the years, I had helped quite a few people on making acquisitions. So I would be as a consultant, not as a broker. So brokers make a commission, most of us, right?
Yeah.
We work on a commission on helping somebody buy or sell a business. So I was charging them a consulting fee. And about 5 years ago, I had a couple of clients that were facing an exit. And I thought, this is something I can do and learn and be really good at. And not just as a consultant, but as a broker, and help them with all the phases of the business. So I really started getting involved in who's out there. And so that's when I found Value Builder. and Value Builder had with John
John
Warlow.
Warlow.
Yeah, and
He's
so
the man. Yeah, I've had him on my show.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's one of the top trusted advisors in the world, right? I mean, he has an incredible platform. So I became part of his affiliate network. You have tools, you have access to their coaching, you have access to their valuation and their whole platform. And so I was using that and learning a lot. And I took a master coaching class for people that are experienced coaches that want to add kind of the brokerage to their product mix. And so in that, as I was taking that course, one of the instructors was the founder and CEO of Benchmark Business Group. Her name's Susan Clements. So I was taking a class from her, and I said, "Wow, she's got this coaching thing down, and she understands the business brokering side of things, and she has a really great style about her, and just a unique way of bringing the best out of people." And so we started talking and doing and working together, and I made a decision about, do I grow this brokerage on my own and build it, with my own team?
Just start a brokerage here in Tucson by yourself. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what
and I
your
talked
first
to
thought
some other
was.
brokers, and I could. They were obviously interested in having me because my presence in Tucson and the network I have and the reputation I have. But I just couldn't find. I wanted somebody that had coaching, consulting, and brokerage, and so there really wasn't that type of fit. And so Benchmark Business Group out of Iowa came from a strong consulting, coaching background with the E-Myth, right? And so they had this incredible background of doing that, and then about 15 years ago got and bought a brokerage company. So they combined all those things, all those aspects pretty seamlessly. And so I understood that, and that made a lot of value to me, and it brought a lot of value to me. And so we tried, to see what this could look like moving forward in the future. So, my role is, okay, I'll become an employee. I'll set up the Tucson office, and my job's to, add some brokers, and obviously list as many qualified, strong, small businesses and that we can, and find buyers around the country. Not all our buyers are local, so that's been going on for over 2 years, and we've had great success and found some niche markets. And so they bring strong processes, a great team, and just the ability to coordinate deals. I'm the facilitator, right? I have to list the business, work with the seller, but then I have to work with the seller's lawyer and the CPA, and then I have to work with the buyer and the buyer's CPA or attorney team. And so you become the main facilitator, and that's working on the pricing, working on the marketing of the business, and then working with all the parties involved. And that's a role that I think I enjoy, and it's a lot of fun bringing all those things together. And so it wasn't what I expected, Norman. I think I was expecting just to grow this organically through my own efforts, but I found somebody where I felt at the end of the day, John, it would expedite my growth. It would expedite building a world-class brokerage here in Tucson by bringing in their processes and their people and their support team and their leadership. And then I could just piggyback on that and really grow it quickly. And so from that perspective, I think it's been an awesome move.
Is it now they're students and she's facilitators of Value Bidder, John Wohlrow's program. Right. So is it more of an M&A advisor that Benchmark is, or is it a broker? They just, there's brokers out there, they get the listing and they just say, hey, we think it's worth this much. And then they put it out there, their list, and that's it. They take the offers and get it. Or do you guys go, you take a look at the business and say, well, you got a great business, but you're working 60 hours in the business. Nobody wants to buy a job. Your profit margin's a little bit lower than the, industry comps. We should get it up, and then kind of work backwards and focus on the individual. Like, so what are you trying to do? Like, what do you want to put 500,000 in your bank account or $1 million? Because if we want to get $1 million, we got to get it to 3x or 5x, something like that.
I think it's a great question and a great analysis of the difference between a broker versus a trusted advisor.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to come from a trusted advisor's perspective, right? So I met with a prospect yesterday, and they have a business, and it could be sold right now, right?
Yeah.
And so I look at case by case. We do evaluation. We see this is what your business is worth now. But if we were to do these things over the next 6 months or a year, we think we could get you an extra 500,000. And so we go over those options. And some people are ready right now, right? They're mentally ready. The business is ready. We're going to list this thing, and maybe there's a couple fine, tuning things we can do. Other businesses are 6 months, a year, 3 years out. And so we're going to have those hard conversations, and we're going to really look at that business case by case, and what's in the business owner's best interest, what's in the customer's best interest, what's in the employee's best interest, and really kind of talk through that. And at the end of the day, we're going to try to help them make the best decision. If that means working with them, or working with their team, and increasing the value of the business, like you said, making their margins a little better, adding a couple execs, or adding a salesperson, or building a better dashboard, or I'm working with the client now. We're going to put him on the market probably a year from now, and he's really strong and really profitable. He has a niche market. He really dominates, but he hasn't changed his pricing in several years because he didn't think he had to. But I spent yesterday.
What do you mean he didn't? Let me ask you about that. What do you think he didn't add to? Because I tell you, the first thing we look at a lot of when I coach a lot of business buyers is, can you run this business? What's going on? Tell the story. And
Yep.
like, what are the price? Because you can change the prices day one, right? Especially with turnarounds. Like maybe it's not as profitable. Okay, you can change the prices day one. If you're thinking about doing more marketing, great. That's a multi-year project. You don't even know if the hypothesis is going to work. You can cut expenses. That's a 90-day timeline, right? Why wouldn't somebody change prices? Why is that? Why does the owners not say, well, we got to keep up with inflation because the money's not as worth as much as it used to be?
I think for a couple of reasons. In his case, his margins were really strong, and he wanted to maintain those relationships.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to rock the boat, and maybe he didn't have the confidence of keeping his pricing. So his pricing was behind the inflation significantly. But he's still, because of his subscription-based model and what he does, he has a really strong margin to begin with. But he's leaving a lot of money on the table, and he hasn't communicated his value proposition appropriately. And so he has good retention, a subscription-based model, but he's finding that there's some competition coming up and on our face, and so they're lower pricing. And so we're going to strengthen his value proposition marketing message. We're going to increase the pricing selectively, and I think it's going to have an impact within 6 months on his bottom line, but it's also going to strengthen his retention rates, lower some of his attrition, and it afford us to get a couple other people in there that he needs so that he can completely be in a position so he doesn't have to do anything. He only works part-time now, but I think this will finance our team growth as well as enable us for him to be in a position where somebody can come in and walk away and he's really not needed.
Yeah. That's cool. That sounds all like John Warlow's value builder stuff. Let me go back. So you started this, joined Benchmark 2022. How many businesses have you sold in the last, 2024? A couple of years. I hate to date these things because then he goes, this is an old podcast.
No, that's okay. It's about a half a dozen.
Yeah.
And they range in all sizes, and some of them are on the sales side and some on the acquisition. Right now in Tucson, we expect by the end of this quarter, which we're in March, so we'll have about 8 listings here in Tucson, and I have a handful in other places. When it takes a while to get listings on the market when they're a little larger or a little more sophisticated company.
Yeah.
So I have a listing coming up that's $8 million and a $15 million. So you just don't list those overnight.
No,
Right?
no. Those take a while to
Those take a while, and the smaller ones you can be a
cultivate.
little quicker, a little less sophisticated in terms of gathering information. But the
And is that in
larger,
Tucson
yeah,
versus
those ones
Phoenix?
are
I have to
averages.
tell everybody that's watching this. So we live in Tucson, and there's Phoenix right down the road.
Yeah.
40, 50 years ago, I-10, it's 100 miles, and there are lots of gaps in between that. Right now, there's houses, construction, everything between 100 miles between Phoenix. Phoenix is growing at a breakneck speed, like one of the fastest growing cities in the nation right now. And they just, growing out. Tucson is like 100 years behind. they don't fix their roads as fast, and just the politics and everything else is it's a different community for business here.
It's a different community, but you know what? There is a lot of business owners that are baby boomers that maybe they're not restaurants or retail, so you're not driving down the road seeing them. But there's a lot of niche successful business owners been running their business for 25 to 40 years, and they're aging out, and they got a really profitable, strong business. A lot of the businesses, some of the businesses I work with, their customers are local. Don't get me wrong. I'm about ready to list 5 daycares, and so those are local clients, local kids, local parents, right? But
they've got their cycles of all their kids. Yeah,
and they've been running these for a long time. They're really successful, and they have great reputation. At the same time, some of the buyers, because of my background, and they're a little more sophisticated, and their clients are national or global. They just happen to be in Tucson because of the lower cost of living. It's a great lifestyle. Some of their employees are here. Some of the employees are elsewhere. But there's a ton of businesses there's manufacturing businesses here that the average person's not familiar with. There's business services or B2B. There's high tech. There's online businesses, and so we'll deal with the occasional restaurant or retail, but that's not our main focus. We're high end.
Yeah. You and I have a mutual friend who used to be an bankruptcy attorney for restaurants, and he said avoid them at all cost.
Yeah, I was offered one this week, and we make the decision who we work with, right? Based on the owner, based on their values, based on the valuation of the business. And so I haven't even decided if this is something I want to list or not. We're going to do our due diligence and mutual evaluation, and maybe it'll make sense, maybe it's not, but we're selective on who we work with, the types of industries, the valuation of the business, who we think the buyers are. And so that makes it a lot more, I think, selective and fun when you can work with people you really want to work with. And to me, any business should be selective on who their clients are and really understand their value and their worth.
Yeah, let's go through this process, benchmark evaluation, because that's the biggest thing. I even do interviews with private equity guys that are throwing off 50 million in EBITDA, and my listeners. Hold on, what happened there? Throwing off 50 million in EBITDA, and they want to know, my watchers like, oh, what they buy at their multiple? But how do you guys go through this benchmark of valuation?
Well, in general, we look at we have 3 different methodologies, right? And so we do an opinion of value. It's a pretty deep dive. We're looking at a minimum of 3 years tax returns. So, you're
looking at the 1120s, the net income. Are you looking at which line, the net income or the ordinary net income in 1120?
Well, and we're going to both, right? We're going to look at both, right? And what we're going to do is, at the end of the day, that business gets its own valuation based on its historical record. But we're going to compare it with everything on similar businesses priced in the open market. Any business been sold in that space. We have those databases. We know what every business industry has sold for, and the multipliers. And the multipliers can go by cash flow or seller's discretionary earnings. We do multipliers by price and by the revenue.
No, what listing is this? Is that database access to what database offers that? Is that just through being a business broker, or what is it?
Yeah, it's a business broker database that we pay a subscription to have listings of of every industry and all of those listings.
What
So
they're sold for?
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, and so
Okay.
that
I
gives
didn't
us
know
a
about that, but that's cool.
wealth of information. So that's just a you have to, at the end of the day, all those valuations and multiples that people come up with, they're made over time by lots of acquisitions, right?
Yeah, it's like kind of like dollar cost averaging.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you can't, there's a little wiggle room there, but you can't break. If something's used to being sold at a 3 multiplier, chances are you're not going to get a 5. I don't care what you're doing, right?
You can ask all day.
You can ask all day, but a sophisticated buyer, or if they, you're usually not going to, people aren't going to overpay for a business. So you have to justify what your business with. So, you can look at a multiplier of EBITDA, a multiplier of revenue, and a multiplier of cash flow. And we weigh all those, and every business is a little bit different on the weighing we give those 3 multipliers. And so, that's our valuation, is looking at similar businesses, what they've been sold at, those 3 different areas, and then weighing the price multiplier, the revenue, or the cash flow multiplier, the revenue multiplier, and then the EBITDA multiplier. And then we weigh those. And so some of those we break it up, 33. Some of it's 50, 20, 30. And so we really look at the industry specifics, but we also have to understand at a macro level what that business is worth. And then we have to look at it from, an economic return on investment. What's the ROI? What can the capitalization, perspective say from somebody who's buying this? What's the what's the net cash flow going to look like? Different buyers care about different things. Are we talking a strategic buyer? Or are we talking a financial buyer? And so, we can look at the capital earnings method as a way of understanding evaluation, but then we also look at what we call buyer's test method. What's that person going to have to pay in terms of to get financing?
Yeah.
What are they going to have to put a down payment on? What's their annual debt going to be if they get it financing? What's their interest rate going to be? How much is real estate versus how much is business? And what's the ratio? And so out of that information, we're going to end up with 3 different valuations. And then from there, we're going to weigh each one of those. And that requires a little bit of art and a little bit of science and a little bit of research on the industry.
Well, so what do you do with a delta? If the delta is tiny, it's not an issue, right? You're going to settle on something. But if the delta is large, you're going to go, okay, what's the conversation?
The conversation is first of all, what's the industry looking at? Which is this out of whack with? Sorry, my thumbs up. Is this out of whack with what the multiplier would look like for the industry? Right. So there has to be a conversation about the industry. There has to be a conversation about who's.
You mean tailwinds or headwinds?
Well, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And it really comes down to also who's the buyer. What's the conversation with who do we think this buyer is going to be? Is it a strategic buyer? Is it somebody that's going to be in their space that's a competition? And what have they done in the past? I just got off the phone this morning with an equity group that's made 10 acquisitions in the last 5 years. And so understanding their buying patterns. Now, that may be a selective price for that one particular buyer, if you will. But going to market, we have to weigh each one of those methodologies. And some of them get weighed a lot and some of them don't get weighed very much. And fortunately, I have a good finance team back there behind me at Benchmark that does a lot of the heavy lifting. And then we sit there and we look at each of our valuations and we look at from different perspectives and find out what would we do? What would we do if we were in the buyer's seat?
Right.
And so,
well, let me ask you that, because a lot of these companies, the larger ones in the lower middle market, like Woodbridge, they will list price. They come back, they kind of use the same valuation methods, 3 different ways they come to a price. Generational, they don't put numbers, they don't put a valuation on, because they want this blind auction from private equity or strategic buyers and pick the biggest price with, some kind of offer in front of them and go, great. One offer might be, $5 million. The next offer came from a private equity for $10 million. What's your how do you guys do that?
Well, there's the aspect of we're trying to find the right fit, and it's a financial question,
Yeah.
right? But we're also asking what's the right fit in terms of the culture, in terms of the team, in terms of geography, in terms of do they want a carry? So there's a lot of factors that go into there. But at the end of the day, I think, pricing it appropriately and not just trying to hope that you get the one buyer that's going to buy at premium is the key here. Is really being defensible. The way I look at it, can I take this valuation to a bank with the financials I have and with the valuation I have? Would they finance it to a well-approved buyer that's through an SBA loan? Would they finance it through our pricing? And so that's the biggest test for me is, does a bank think that this business is financeable?
Yeah, I think we're on the same wavelength there, because I think SBA banks, the lenders, are the guardrails. If I take the valuation to the bank and they say, yes, the dollar discount, the DSCR is going to be 1.5 or greater, and it's done that year in, year out, great. We will finance this deal, because, and given that the buyer is, financially has the wherewithal or personal guarantee,
Sure,
whatever that is. But the cash flow can handle the debt payments. Yes, we will fund this deal. We'll give it a term sheet. A lot of the times we see these valuations come out and go, well, I'm not even sure how that works, because if we put, I don't care if you put 90% or 60%, it can't, the debt service coverage ratio it can't handle that. Even if we put it under stress test, like most businesses, new buyer comes in, there'll be a J curve. It drops a little bit because you're making a little few mistakes. You lost a person, you lost a contract, whatever it was. And it dips below the 1.5, whatever the number is on the debt service coverage ratio is. A lot of the time, these businesses go like, dude, this is like, it can't handle the debt. We can't buy it. I don't get it.
Yeah. And we don't want to put something on the market that is going to be hard to sell.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if it's overpriced, this, at the end of the day, supply and demand still rules. Right. I mean, you can't break the economic rule of supply and demand. If there's no demand for this business at this price, then it's going to waste your time and my time. So I'm just saying, from a macro level, you have to understand that factor. And if the debt ratio is out of whack, then I'm wasting my time. And then we have to look at what's the appropriate valuation. So remember, most of the business owners that are selling their business between 500,000 to 15 million aren't sophisticated finance people.
No.
Right?
No, there's somebody that picked up a trade and worked their ass off for 25 years and built something, and looking back going, holy crap, I built a $15 million business. I'm a millionaire next door. Trade guy.
Yeah, and those are beautiful to sell, because they usually have strong teams, right? They have a strong historical record, and we try to look at what's the typical asset sale going to get us, because most of the sales, there's some stock sales, but these are asset sales, right? And so, there's a lot of factors that go into understanding, are they ready to sell now? And if they're not ready to sell, I'm not going to list them. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Financially
let
or
me
personally?
unpack that a little bit. What happens, and this is, I think, characteristics of some business brokers out there, and I'm not saying all of them, but to get the listing, just like real estate agents, they'll say, I think I could sell it for $5 million. Great. Wow. And the seller builds these sandcastles in their head about what they're going to do with all this money, right? And it's not worth 5 million. Maybe it's just worth 4 million, but they're anchored on that number. And all the buyers come in, they look at it and go, hey, we only think it's worth, 3.5, at the most 4, if you do a lot of this seller financing, some kind of standby. Because what happens to that? Why does that happen so frequently?
Well, I think it's part of the industry that it isn't thinking from the perspective of a trusted advisor. They're thinking about, how do I get a listing, and how do I then almost do a bait and switch?
Yeah, it's
Right?
transactional. Yeah.
And I think it comes back to the culture of the individual or the team you work for. I That's never been my approach in anything I've done. So for me, I think I want to tell the truth to this seller, even if it's hard, bad news.
Yeah.
Right? Your business is. I had a conversation yesterday. Your business is not worth what you want to pull out, what you're walking away with. Right? What you want to walk away with versus what I can sell it for. We got a big gap here. So either expectations have to change, or you need to make some changes to your business. I believe I'm doing them a disservice if anytime I would try to list somebody on a price that's not defensible.
Yeah.
Right. That's first of all, they're going to set expectations for themselves, and a lot of times they're not going to run the business the same way. I want them to put their foot on the accelerator and run that business and keep running it. And at the same time, I want to put a business out there that I have a great chance of selling, and I have enough on my plate where my opportunity cost is high. So I'm going to list you because we agree this is the valuation. I'm going to go ask them to talk to their deal team. Talk to your banker, talk to your lawyer, talk to your CPA, get their input about our valuation. Go test this out. And sometimes we hear a little news back, hey, explain this, or we don't understand that. But most of the time it comes back that this is a solid approach and a solid valuation. And that, I think, helps us build trust. And it makes sure that if I put something on there, I'm not going to waste my time or the seller's time trying to sell something and hope that somebody comes with an offer like, well, we didn't get the 5 million, but take the 3 million.
Yeah.
So in that case, I'm not at all commission driven. I'm driven on the customer, the seller, and the buyer having a great partnership and a great relationship, and doing something that's in the best interest of both. And so I think it comes back to your core value. Are you a trusted advisor, or are you just trying to sell something?
Yeah. Let me ask you a different scenario. Somebody has got a nice business, been running it for 25 years, and he's got a number in his head, wherever that came from. But you say it's not worth that, and we probably won't get that. Even if you do get that, that number is the country club number versus the number that they actually deposit in the bank, right? There's a kind of a difference. But he said, if you really want that number, it's going to take about 2 years to get there because you need to put value builder in place. Like, how do you have this conversation with somebody who says, like, do you have any more gas in your tank to do this? What are the characteristics you look for? Like, maybe is it, everything's good in his family. It's just that maybe there's health, sickness, or something going on. That's not an option to gas in your tank deal.
I think the important thing is you really have to dig deep into their personal readiness.
Yeah.
Right? You really have to dig deep into I was doing assessment of the business, and I do assessment of the seller. Right? There's some great tools, but also I have a lot of years of doing good needs analysis, really understanding the business owner's mindset, where they're at personally, where they're at professionally, and where their business is at. That's a lot of probing questions, right? Clarifying questions to really understand where they're at. Are they being realistic with where they're at? Sometimes they're not being realistic, so that's a conversation. And if it's a health issue, then what can we do, right? Do we need to bring management team in? Do you need to sell this at a different price point? And so you can't put lipstick on a pig, right? You got to tell them exactly where they're going at. And, I show them, this is most likely, this is what your business is valued at. This is what we're going to go to market at. This is what you're going to make after any liabilities, pay off your debt, pay the broker fee, pay pay your taxes.
So what you really walk away with.
Money, right?
Yeah.
And I had a tough conversation, John, just yesterday with a guy with this. And he has to go think about what he wants to do, right?
Yeah.
You're walking away money. He's not there. His business isn't performing the way he wants it to. So he has choices. He can accept less. He can invest in building that business up in a few different ways. And we'll walk him through those options. And sometimes those are tough conversations. But at the end of the day, it's not, you're coming from a position of not trying to sell him anything. I'm just trying to share the truth and share some options and give him some good scenarios. Really ask him to talk to his deal team. Maybe sometimes we come to my conference room and we sit down and we look at those options from different perspectives. And at the end of the day, what's his resources available? What's his time frame look like? What do they have available? And sometimes it's just a matter of time. Other times, you have those hard discussions. Well, are we going to keep this business going with the team you have, or do we need to bring a GM in or a CEO, or do we break this thing apart? There's all types of options out there.
Yeah.
But most of the time, the guys I'm working with really are passionate about their business. They're passionate about the performance. They're passionate about taking care of their employees. They're passionate about taking care of their customers. They usually want to do the right things, because the people I attract have been doing the right things for a while. They want to do the right things. They're willing to put a little more time and energy into it. And they want to walk away with for a lot of these guys, just walking away with retirement. Now, we do work with entrepreneurs, so we're going to sell it and reinvest, right? Like what I was trying to do. But a lot of the people we're talking are baby boomers trying to retire, and hopefully they come to us before, where we have a little more time to really get the thing performing at a better level. But these are tough conversations. I don't mind having them. And if I'm not the right guy, then they can find somebody that maybe will tell them what they want to hear versus telling them what they need to hear and telling them what the truth is.
Yeah. So this is kind of a personal story. My son is he's 16 years old. He's kind of 6'3", growing fast, and he's 14 feet, but he did some speed test trials and he got a 5.8 in the 40-yard dash, which is, I don't think it's slow. I don't think it's fast. He's 16. And he was pretty disappointed, but 24 hours later, he's back working his ass off towards that goal of being at a 5-second and 40 yards in the next football season. That's what I would look for in somebody who says, like, do you got gas in your tank? The next day you're in, new goals.
Yeah. And part of any trusted advisor is helping people create goals that can be accomplished, right? SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, realistically high, time trackable. I call it SMARTY, and your goal, right? So a lot of my coaching was helping people identify SMARTY goals, execute the plan, and watch the growth, and maybe get other coaches or other people involved in that. But if they have some gas in the tank, maybe that's where they should go. If they don't have gas in the tank, then they have to look at those options of what's in their best interest, or what we can do to help them out, to make sure that the business can stay valuable. What you don't want doing is somebody's burned out and that business starts tanking.
Yeah. And the valuation keeps going down. I got one more question. We're almost on an hour. So this is what I warn business buyers. I said, great, you can buy a business. It's a great valuation. You can go to the SBA. You're approved for that. But if you're levering up a business that's never been levered up like this on a loan, 90% of it, so where, maybe it's a 1.5 debt service coverage ratio. So every check you cut, 66% goes to paying off debt. It changes the characteristics of the business and what you can spend on to grow, bring people on, etc. How do you have that conversation with these buyers or sellers, or how that looks like, especially if the buyer is a single? Like if it's a business and they're buying strategically, it's a different story, right? But if it's somebody that's acquisition entrepreneur, levering up a business 90% debt, kind of changes characteristics.
Yeah, first of all, we got to plug those numbers into some forecasting.
Yeah.
Right. So I want to do, there's two sides of every decision, the emotional side and the factual side.
Yeah.
And so I really want them to understand what this is going to mean to them from a financial standpoint. How do we forecast this out? And then talk to them about, because your forecast has to tie in with your people, your processes, and your plan. What's the total real investment? It's not just financial, is it? It's your time, it's the people you got to bring on board, it's the processes you have to develop, and it's the cost of money. So you kind of have to say, this is where you're currently at if you're trying to sell something, or this is where you're currently at, you're trying to make a purchase. I try to forecast all that out. I create, with every customer I've had, a vision of the future. And what was this acquisition do? Acquisitions, to me, need to help me accomplish my vision of the future. They can be opportunistic, but most of the time they need to be strategic. My goal is to grow this amount over this period of time. How do I make a strategic purchase? Well, what is it going to take in terms of my team, my organizational structure, my processes, my cost of money, and what is my best options? There's opportunity cost for pursuing any acquisition, right? So I really help them understand, and we, with being in QuickBooks or in Excel spreadsheets, really forecasting what their business is going to look like in the future from a financial standpoint, from a team standpoint, and from a resources. What is strategy? Strategy is understanding your goals and vision, understanding how you're going to achieve that, and understanding the resources necessary to accomplish that shared vision. You have to lay all that out. And so that's a combination of people, that's a combination of financial numbers, and that's a combination of processes. So is this acquisition going to help me get where I'm going to get, or is there another way? So that's from, if I'm going from an acquisition standpoint. I know that doesn't, apply to everybody, but that I really want them to buy in to the forecasting of their organizational structure and of their financials and of the cost of money. And I want them to see the bottom line, and I want them to see what their role is going to be and what they're going to have to add, because chances are they're just not, it's just what they have now isn't going to get them where they're going to go.
Yeah. And that's referred to, say, if a big percentage of your cash flow, free cash flow, is going out to pay debt service, you just don't, it's got to be there. I got to ask another question, and this is inherent with small businesses: financial integrity, accounting. Most of them you'll see. I mean, I could see these. I coach people all the time. I can see they're sometimes on their spreadsheets. There's sometimes cash accounting with inventory, not accrual. Most of the times they're not balanced. The net income on the income statement doesn't match the net income on the balance sheet or the cash flow statement or whatever's in cash. How do you fix that? How do you go back and do kind of a financial audit and help them go, this is the valuation of your assets. These are the assets, because sometimes they just don't put all the assets in their chart of accounts. They're just all over the place. And sometimes they're borrowing money from something.
Yeah, I mean, financial integrity you can spot that pretty quickly with most organizations, right?
Yeah.
You look at their balance sheet, you look at their tax returns, you look at their P&L. And on the consulting side, there's never been a chart of accounts I couldn't make more better, right? For the in terms of from an entrepreneur's perspective, what story does that profit and loss and balance sheet tell me as a business owner? And so what the first thing I do is I ask the business owner to explain their story of their P&L and balance sheet. Can they do that? And so then I learn a lot about their financial literacy. Do they understand what they're looking at? And chances, and it's all over the place, right? Some of them understand a little and some of them understand a lot. And so I really try to understand, do they know what their story of their financials is telling? Do they know how to tell the difference of what they're doing year over year? And have they made any strategic decisions to get there? So what's the history? What's their current assessment? What's their forecast? We have those conversations. And at the end of the day, I'm going to look in their QuickBooks. I'm going to look at their tax returns, and we're going to have conversations about, I'm going to ask them, tell me the story behind this. And some of them get it right part of the time. Right? But part of that is educating them on their financial. And then who's their financial team? Is it an in-house bookkeeper? Are they getting somebody to, very seldom, unless it's a bigger company, are they really getting any audits done? How strong is their financial team?
Yeah.
And where's that team looking like? And we require in a deal team, we require of our listings to have a CPA that we talk to, right? And so that's usually an outside.
Yeah, I got to tell you right now, you're just going to one deeper level versus a typical business broker. They just put that stuff out there.
Yeah, and I won't. And that has to do with the thousands of profit and loss statements I looked at by being a consultant for almost 20 years. Yeah. Right? I'm not going to just look at it. I'm going to dive into it. We're going to ask deep questions, and I want to understand the owner's perspective of his business or her business, and what it means to them. And if we need to if we need to help them understand that, or bring in some other talent to redo those, we will. We'll give them advice, or we'll give them referrals, I should say, right, on people that can strengthen their literacy, or just come up with better books. But every buyer is going to look at your books. Right?
Yeah, and they're going to tell their own story. They're going to create a story what they see. Are you doing a good job of turning assets into cash flow? Are you getting effective, productive, more efficient at it? Yes or no, right? Yeah.
And so I think it's all over the place in terms of sophistication, literacy, and integrity of financials. If I see something that doesn't make sense, we're going to dive in. We're going to ask a lot of questions. And if it's too messy, or if they're playing games, I'm not the right fit for them.
Yeah. Sounds great. Paul, I took you over 7 minutes over the hour, so thank you so much. My first Tucson Top M&A Entrepreneurs podcast. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me, John. I appreciate you bringing me on.
All right.
I hope this video has inspired you. If you need help buying your first $1 million business, make sure to visit me at dealflowsystem.net. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe down below. Comment on it, share it, tell everyone about it. And thanks for watching.